Welcome to Devonshire Cultural Center in Skokie, in Illinois. We're having the special exhibition titled Courage, the art of the first responders, firefighters, policemen, healthcare workers, and veterans who have been working diligently, continuously during this last 2 years of the COVID pandemic. We are showing several different artists, and I was invited to be participating in this special exhibit. And my background is a retired physician, and I was invited to show my showcases of paintings that are produced during this pandemic in the last 2 years. When we heard the coronavirus, COVID-19 virus was detected in Wuhan, China, we thought that was a new virus only localized in the small area far away in Asia. However, the virus spread outside of that region and reached almost entire China, and the outbreak followed by so many different countries. And at the first part of the 2020, it came to America. And in March 2020, Governor Pritzker of Illinois declared emergency and closed all the schools, and the lockdown order was mandatory, and everybody was ordered to wear the mask, and many non-essential business were shut down. And so far, we have more than 70 million people have been diagnosed with the COVID in America, and nearly 1 million people died of COVID virus in America alone. And at that time, I was not able to go outside of my home because of all the parks and the museum, not to mention about businesses and restaurants that closed. I had no other alternative except for just sit down at home. And I was very interested to volunteer to help the COVID patients, even though I'm a retired physician, but my wife would not let me because we are in a high-risk category of the COVID by our age. So therefore, I was not able to go to the hospital or any makeshift clinic, and I stayed at home and watched the TV and internet, and I found out that so many different scenes and the stories came out through the screen. And this painting is my first painting that I did, rushing the patient from the ambulance to the emergency room. You could see that those nurses and paramedics are taking care of the patient who is on oxygen and all the life-sustaining devices. And every second was count. And they were rushing to get the patient to get it into the hospital and go to the intensive care unit. And at the beginning, this was very rare and unusual that you could see during the news broadcasting. However, this one continuously repeated almost daily, that you could see that these patients are arriving in the hospital, and eventually all the intensive care units, ICU, were filled with the patients, and all the ventilators are occupied, and some of the patients could not access the ventilator immediately. And as soon as the patient arrived to the emergency room, and the most sick patients, serious patients, are transferred to ICU, and the patients are fighting for the last breath with assistance of the ventilator and oxygen, all the life-sustaining devices and the medications. The tireless medical staff, doctors, nurses, and the technologists were taking care of these patients endlessly. As you can see, they were wearing personal protective equipment to protect themselves. They don't want to get infected from the virus by themselves and not to spread those viruses. So we learned that every day these healthcare workers were working endlessly, hours and hours. And sometimes they worked extended hours without taking proper sleeping or rest in between the cases. And we saw that some images of them are resting in the corner of the ICU, emergency room, and other areas of the hospital, and some of them may not be able to go to home even. These paintings, titled as "Not All Heroes Wear Capes," A and B, depicting the images of the healthcare workers around the world wearing the personal protective equipment. As you see, doctors and nurses and technologists around the world wearing all different kinds of the masks for protection themselves from the COVID virus. And it is not unusual to meet them as a daily access of the news, that we appreciate that. They're dedicated, sacrificial endeavor during this COVID pandemic for the last 2 years. For instance, you can see the first lady on the left upper, Dr. Giovanna Cesarino, infectious disease specialty in Brazil, and followed by emergency room physician from Manhattan, New York, Dr. Christopher Roberti. And the first responders in the hospital are not only the physicians and nurses. I found one image of the Father Claudio Del Monte, chaplain of one of the hospitals in Italy. And all those dedicated workers around the world worked endlessly every day to take care of these so many patients in the hospital and the clinic. This is a self-portrait of myself wearing the mask while I was working. When I treated a patient while I was practicing in a hospital, and also while I was working in a mission hospital, we used a disposable mask. We wore it once while we were taking care of the patient, and then threw away after I see the patient. When we had a new patient, I grabbed a new mask and wearing it for the next procedure of the next patient. But when we had a pandemic situation, I was wearing the cloth mask all day, every day, until I washed it and then used again. And because of the shortage of the mask at the beginning, we were forced to use the mask almost every day for 1 week or so. I heard sad news from Michigan. One of the convent, Livonia convent near Detroit City, the Felician sisters in that Livonia convent died one after the other. 12 sisters died in 1 month. And a few months later, the 13th sister also died. Out of those 12 sisters, at least 8 were confirmed that they had a COVID virus. They were aged from 73 to 99. On the left upper corner, Sister Mary Louisa Wozniak was 99-year-old lady. We knew that old age is a high risk of getting the infection and complication from the pulmonary infection and the complication. And when I heard that, I tried to get their images, their photographs from the internet, and I compiled to make this image as a dedication to those people who died from the COVID virus. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot ordered to mask in public places, and all the museum and restaurants and businesses were closed. And in public, when you go outside and you have to maintain the social distancing while you're wearing the mask. I heard that Lions, iconic guardians of the Art Institute, got the mask as well. Kelly Winter, installation artist of Dimension Design, put the masks on the sculptures standing in front of the main entrance of Art Institute. The lions have become icons of the museum since they were sculpted by American artist Edward Camis in 1893 at the conclusion of the World's Columbia Exposition. These famous lions received the mask for public awareness of corona prevention. I went to the spot to do the quick sketches and took photographs while wearing the mask myself, and to return home to work on this painting. Usually, the areas are crowded with many people on Michigan Avenue, but it was virtually empty, except for a lone pedestrian walking, again wearing mask. I finished the painting and continued to work on many canvases as series of the mask during coronavirus. I also went to the Daily Plaza, and the sculpture made by Picasso was also wearing the mask. Again, the Daily Plaza used to crowded with so many people, but I could not even see anybody until I waited to see one pedestrian walk by, and I captured that scene and made a painting on this one. As of today, more than 470 million people were diagnosed with the COVID virus around the world, and more than 6 million people died from COVID virus. In America alone, we had almost 80 million people were diagnosed with COVID, and near to 1 million people died of COVID virus for last 2 years. The statistics shows that as of November 2020, 3,000 healthcare workers died. Among them, 220 physicians and 460 nurses died of COVID virus. And I was able to get the images of those doctors who died of COVID virus, and I collected them and I painted in these 2 panels of the canvases. They are the fallen heroes who sacrificed their lives to take care of the sick patients in the hospital. And let me start with the Dr. Frank Gabriel, emergency room physician in New York City. He was the first infectious disease emergency room specialist, died of COVID virus, and then one after the other, many physicians died. And you may see this only female physicians here on the second left to the middle row. Her name is Adeline Fagan, Dr. Adeline Fagan. She was a 28 years old obstetrics gynecologist, resident physician in Texas. She told her parents that she was wearing the mask over and over until the fibers of mask are getting broken, and she was not able to purchase the good mask at that time, which was cost $74 for single mask. So even though she was an OBGYN resident, she was taking care of the patient in emergency room. And then she was infected with a COVID virus, and then she died out of COVID. And this doctor, David Warren, is a radiologist, the same specialist, same specialty that I had. So many physicians of America and also around the world died of the COVID, and I memorized and dedicated these 2 canvases in memory of those dedicated physicians from the COVID pandemic. Thank you.